So I thought I'd return to my very occasional series talking about some of the individuals in the YouTube new atheist scene that I was in thrall of about 15 years ago. And today I wanted to return to Matt Dillahunty, who, let's face it, is the chief poobah pretty much of the scene. As I said before, I encountered his work when I discovered the atheist experience back around 2008, and at that point it was basically archived clips from their old public broadcasts, pre YouTube days, and then they had weekly episodes which they also archive. And the format always remained basically the same, usually two presenters who would have a topic for discussion and then would invite call-ins to have people to talk their own point through, usually or ideally a theist, usually some sort of a Southern Baptist type, or maybe a Catholic. And the format would usually be pretty much a Matt staking out the territory of the discussion right out of the traps, just saying, okay, what's your claim and what's your evidence for it? And at the time, I found that wonderfully, good framing, because it really put the mockers on the would-be interlocutor ringing in. If you've got some, crazy metaphysical claim, you goddamn better gotta have some evidence to back it up. I know in retrospect think that it was quite a silly format for the most part. Certainly if you had creationist Egypt's ringing in, okay, fair enough, that you could have the old, what's your evidence for young earth creation. But when it came to more abstract things, I now realise in retrospect that it was a piss weak format, because the old okay, what's your claim and what's your evidence thing is not a good way of trying to discuss abstract concepts like what a metaphysic could consist of, what could its use be, how it's not really making claims, it's guiding thought. It's not intended really, I don't think, to be something that is claim, evidence, therefore truth. It's more a metaphysical proposition, possible pathway to a truth about yourself or about the world around you. And based on the many hours of the atheist experience that I absorbed, I don't think that was a conversation that they ever really had any particular interest. I think from their point of view, it was just a moot point. Everything's a testable claim, therefore produce evidence, or as the obnoxious Twitter and YouTube commenters would say, photos or piss off with your claim. Now, did that spark my disillusionment with the whole thing? Well, no, it didn't really, because at that point I was still just, it would have just been more frustrating, kind of, can you guys, I love what you have to say about so many things, could you not phrase that conversation better? But I happened to be listening to a far more right-wing discussion on Aaron McIntyre's channel about a week ago, and there was a little bit of discussion around when this great awakening first started, and everybody seems to hone in on about 2012. We're well into Obama's second term, and I hate sounding so American-centric about it, but so much of this stuff gets imported from there that it's impossible to not talk about it like that. But that maps on pretty closely to my growing disillusionment with the atheist experience. In one of my very first videos, I talked about that really obnoxious calling that Matt Dillahunty had, where the lad was saying he was as much a believer as an unbeliever, and Matt Dillahunty was so rude to him. He was so obnoxious. Really, that kind of rudeness deserves nothing other than saying, well, you know, if you're going to be that much of an arsehole about it, you can just take your atheistic experience and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. But it plays well, or that kind of thing appears to play well with folks that are still adherents to that kind of free thought forum, which is really just masquerading as a free thought forum. What it actually is a talking shop and a bullying pulpit for liberal progressive values is what it actually is. But yeah, that mapped on pretty good. We're into the second Obama term. We've Trayvon Martin, who wasn't a innocent 17-year-old bringing Skittles home to his younger brother. He was a big lump of a lad who was beating the head off a non-white person on the ground. Not that the race of the person on the ground would have made any difference, except that he was consistently described as a white man for the purposes of creating a racism narrative. And as Trayvon Martin was trying to murder him, your man managed to shoot him, and then had to be dragged to, court for racist murder, blah blah blah, while the race baiter in chief Obama is getting teary-eyed on the podium talking about how this kid could have been my own son. So that was certainly a domino for me back in those days, and it maps on pretty good. The Great Awokening and me realising how, in many ways, shoddy the atheist experience was in general, and how Matt Dillahunty was in particular. And it was all downhill from there, because then we had the all atheism plus thing, and then we had we're a kink friendly show. The rainbows started to make just basically permanent appearance, and then we were treated to, the lurid details of Matt's alleged cook relationship with his then wife, how that ended up me tooing another Lugerman from from that milieu as well, David Silverman. And really and truly, you look back in horror at a lot of this stuff, but like Matt Dillahunty is now a massive advocate for the trans movement and the trans rights, and really obnoxiously and aggressively so, as only those lunatics can be. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, his missus is a trans woman, or should I say just a woman. So this is what this is the kind of thing you can absorb and look back at. And how's it going, lads? They're two great little beagles. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Sure, they're great. I'd say there's so many trails and rabbits and hares. I'd say to be
not raining for a change.
Yeah. Get out while you can. The flies are unbearable though, aren't they? Get a bit of a bracken branch and just wave it around and they'll fly away.
Oh yeah.
Seriously, that's the only way I can deal with it.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's actually today. It's actually really good.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's actually not too bad. When you go down at the bottom part, you'll just be it, like, I've got me bracken branch here anyway to swat them away, like,
Get yourself sorted.
I will. Thanks. Bye now. So yeah, two absolutely fantastic little beagle dogs there. So yeah, that's just the way that progressed. In a way, a comment I've had thrown at me in the pub over the last 10 years has been, "Oh, I thought you were a great atheist. What have you changed your mind again?" And well, no, I haven't. I mean, I'm not dismissing every interesting topic they ever covered on that show, not at all. There was always some really interesting discussions about epistemology and about morality and ethics, but I couldn't any longer ignore the fact that they had a very particular framing and that was the only way that the discussion could be facilitated. And no, you don't get to bark at people and demand that how they articulate their worldview and their interior life and their thought life in a narrow structure that you define. Like, you have to let them think slightly in more abstract terms. That's just all there is to it, you know. So yeah, that's the trajectory with that one. I thought he was a very funny lad, and he could be very witty and very acerbic. But you know, around about the time that I started drifting away from that, you know, he'd always told a number of anecdotes about how his parents were still, you know, fundamentalist Christians, and it strained his relationship with him. So one Easter, he said, "I want to share a letter with you that I got from my mother and father." And he went on to say, "I'd hoped that it'd be something like, you know, look at Matt, we respect the way you view the world, and we still love you, you know, and you know, it's just something very benign like that." But no, they said, "Look, we're going to continue to pray for you, so that you're not, you know, remaining on hell's path, yada yada yada." And okay, like, I mean, he could have said, "It's just breaks my heart that they're so deluded," but he went on a rant, a vitriolic, spleen-filled rant. It was just shocking, like, you know, at the venom, you know, and the really like absolute hatred, you know, and how shoddy he was describing him, and just not that willing to accept other views. Let's just put it that way. How these people are still limping along with that format all these years later is beyond me. But I can see now that a lot of folks just don't want to, you know, query anything further at all. Now, I was trying to think of, you know, is there any remote relationship between this static shot I've been holding here for the last 12 minutes? And, you know, we can see the N11 motorway snaking its way northwards through Wicklow. So I'm going to say that that's an analogy, or the car's progress is the analogy for your thought life as it travels along a much longer path than you thought it'd be. And no, you can absorb you know, very, very secular atheist positions, agree with many of them, and still become utterly disillusioned with them, and think, well, hang on, maybe a theistic position needs to be re-examined again, and it doesn't make you a hypocrite to do so. And any political leanings that changed are collateral to that, frankly. And I would say natural outcomes, if any of those Gamalias in that atheist community of Austin could ever bear to face that as a possibility. But anyway, thanks for listening.